everybody. I had fun doing a little bit of research with some photographers that I hang around with, and we came to a bit of a conclusion as to what type of photographers we tend to fall into. Are we a true photographer, or are we a photo artist, or are there categories in between? Are we ready for this? Let's find out. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and pushing yourself maybe to be a photo artist, which is thinking creatively out of the box, doing things a little bit different. So here's what I had come up with a small group of photographers that I meet on a regular basis. We discuss things and debate about certain features. And there's a lot of times a misunderstanding as to what a photographer is versus a photo artist. And I've got a lot of new people that came on board as subscribers, and I've talked a little bit about this in the past. What is the difference between the two? But we're going to dig deeper. And if you can hang in there till the end, we're actually, I'm going to assign a little bit of an assignment for you, which is easy. And there's no right or wrong on this, but I want to get your opinion on what we came up with. So let's first of all dive in and talk about, well, what is a photographer versus a photo artist? So if we, again, let me jump over here to the slides over here. And this is where you're a photographer. I'm just taking my camera out. I'm taking a photograph. I'm having it processed, printed, and this is what I end up with. And that's what they call a true photographer. On the far extreme, though, there's another category called a photo artist. And a photo artist is somebody that uses a camera and software to create their art and vision. But is there any other categories sort of in between that? And what tends to be, say, the things that we do in those other areas? So this is what we came up with. And I'd like to get your thoughts on this toward the end. But we broke this up into groups, A, B, C, D, E, F. And these are not grades. There's nothing wrong with what area you're in, but it just helps describe certain categories. So I'll give you an example. Category A, if we take a look at this, this is true photography by, I don't know how to word this. I would say very strict, hard-nosed category of people that have a camera, and photography to them is what the camera captured. You are not manipulating anything. There's absolutely no cropping allowed at all. You just want to make sure that your exposure is proper. Everything is in focus. So it's almost like taking a Polaroid. If you ever shot with a Polaroid camera in the past, it is what it is, right? You have no choice because you're not sending this out. It's just being processed in front of you, and it's what the camera saw. And when I used to shoot film when I was a kid, and you'd shoot a roll of film and you'd send it away. It would be processed, come back, and what the camera saw, hopefully, is what I got my exposure right and everything was in focus. But there's no really manipulation at all, and that's what's considered a true hard-nosed photographer. So we saw the example earlier, and that is like this, the bridge in the background with the bird. This is what the camera actually saw. No manipulation at all, no cropping at all, just proper exposure, focus, and off we go. Okay, so the next category, category B over here, is a little bit different. In category B, you are allowed to do some cropping and some dodging and burning, and this is pulling away from group A, because the people in group A say, no, 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 no. When you're manipulating things now, that's not a true photographer. And that's all up for debate. I don't think so, but they're the group in group A, that's the way they are. So examples I can give you of like cropping, dodging, and burning. And if I pull this up, there's a couple images here by Arnold Newman. And if you take a look at this, this is a really well-known photograph of Picasso. And obviously this is what it looks like. But in reality, this is what the negative looked like per se, and he cropped in there. Okay, let's take a look at another one with this piano This is a very well-known image of his, but here we go. This is what the negative looked like. So again, he cropped in there. Elliot Irwin, great street photographer and other types of photography, but look what he did. This, I mean, I love this shot, right, of the dog, but this is what the negative looked like. So it was cropped in there. So, when you're talking about, how about even like, Ansel Adams. Ansel Adams manipulates things in the darkroom, dodging and burning. The guy's incredible at this. When I look at some of the work that, say, fashion photographers have done, like Peter Lindbergh, David Bailey, Richard Avedon, and the list goes on and on and on. Those are manipulated with dodging and burning and cropping and stuff, and yet they are considered photographers. But Group A doesn't believe that, okay? So, I look at Group B as, yeah, you're a photographer, and Group A, you're a photographer, but to say that Group B is not, again, that's debatable, right? There's no right or wrong on that. Okay, so let's take a look at Group C. And Group C is, well, I've got this landscape shot or whatever, it might be a group shot at a wedding or who knows what, but there's something distracting on the wall or whatever. And so I want to clone that out. Maybe I want to do some color adjustments or color grading. Maybe 2-3 people, the skin is, they just had a bad day. And so I need to go in there and do some touch up and stuff like that. So again, moving further away from, say, Group A would say, well, no, that's not photography because that's not what the camera saw. You're color grading or taking things out of the image that didn't exist, that did exist, but you're taking it out. Now your image is not representing reality, okay? And, I get that. I understand that. But again, we're pulling further away from even Group B again by going into Group C. And then I'm going to talk about where I belong in this little, say, experiment here. The next group, and by the way, just to show you, in Group C, I mean, many of you probably have done some touch-up and cloning and color grading and that. And, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like a photographer or more of a photo artist when you're in that area versus, people in the Group A? The next group, let's take a look at Group D, and that is adding elements. In other words, I'm putting things into my photo that never existed before. So as an example, here's a photograph of a couple kids, and then I altered that by adding these leaves, which added to the image and the story of the image, right? But that wasn't reality. So I know Group A would be screaming right now that, that's not photography. Well, I agree with that partially. Now I'm moving into that area of being a photo artist. It's not extreme, but again, the photo artist. Like this wedding picture I did years ago in front of Comerica Park, which is where the Detroit Tigers play in downtown Detroit, and they love baseball. And so I had them pose like that, but I added changed out the sky, really gave it a different look with color grading, dropped in the lightning bolt, the orb on their hand, that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm adding those elements, right? They didn't exist. So I understand, okay, that's not true photography. I'm now in the realm of a photo artist. Now, if we move further to Group E, let's take a look at that group, and that's what I do a lot of, and that is compositing. And so here's an example of what I do with kids, let's say between the ages, say 5 and 12. I do a lot of that type of compositing and that look right there. But you've seen some of my past work where I took a model to say, improve and upgrade her portfolio, and threw her in the studio, and I did this shoot with sort of certain side lighting, and I had an idea in my mind what background I'm going to use, and then I came up with this. So that's, again, true compositing. I'm a photo artist, right? I'm using my camera and software to create my art in Vision. So yeah, I can't be, considered in Group A and even B and C, right? I'm really pushing myself to that creative side of a photo artist. And then the last category, the category F that we came up with, was basically anything goes. You're just taking your camera out there and maybe doing intentional camera movement, blurred image, you're adding stuff. It doesn't matter. You're anything goes on that. And maybe you're doing a tiny bit of AI where you're just say, I want to eliminate this, but I want to add something over here, and you're adjusting certain things. So this is an example of, say, a true photo artist that would, say, live in the category of F that we came up with. Now, with that said, hang in there because I got a little bit of an assignment for you, but there's another category that I didn't want to put in there because you can't call it a photo artist because a photo artist is using camera and software to create their art and vision. And that other category would be a true, say, AI artist. In other words, you're not using a camera at all. What you're just doing is you're starting out with a blank document in Photoshop, and you're just building things 100% with AI based on your imagination and creativity to come up with a piece of artwork. And so that would be an AI artist. And again, you're not using physically a camera. So in my opinion, you're not a photo artist. You're an AI artist. So here's the assignment, by the way. What do you think of these categories, and where do you belong? I'll share with you where I belong most of the time. And that is, yes, most of my work is doing this, and that is compositing and adding elements. So I'm in between these two. I wear that hat. I'm a photo artist. If I'm doing something personal, once in a while I might jump in and say, hey, anything goes. But no, when I'm doing stuff for client work and that, and say personal projects even, in between these two, that's D and E. I'm doing an event like a wedding or something else, family shoot, that type of stuff. Then I'm wearing a different hat. I'm wearing the hat of a photographer. And I consider group B and C to be a photographer. And A, obviously. But, group A doesn't consider B and C as true photography. I understand where they're coming from, but to label and say that, Arnold Newman and the list I gave you before, Elliot Irwin and stuff are not photographers, and Ansel Adams and that. No, they are. They're classified as that. So again, you decide what group you want to be in, but I'm just, I'm jumping between, say, BC based on what I'm shooting versus my creative side. I'm doing between the D and the E. So I'd like to know in the comments below if you could do me a favor. And there, again, no right or wrong. I'm just curious, where do you see yourself most of the time? Or you can say, hey, Steve, most of the time I'm doing things like in the group D, but other time I'm doing stuff in group B right there. So between B and D. See what your thoughts are about this group. If you feel there's another category, a group that should be considered, let me hear about it. Okay. All right. So with that, you always see my ending over here, right? Literally think creatively out of the box. Let's get that camera out, do some creative things. Until next time, see ya.